All right, so I'm going to conclude once again this year with my mayor's vision for the immediate future. If you'll recall, last year's vision statement had 5 elements: family and faith first, number 2, be business friendly, 3, crystal clear communication, 4, keep our financial house in order, and 5, pick up the pace. And those 5 prongs still apply with equal or greater force this year. So allow me to update you on what we've accomplished in each category over the last 52 weeks, and then to articulate my vision for where we still need to go. Recall that item number 1 on my mayor's vision list was, and it still is, family and faith first. Last year, I urged us to make sure that when we're making any decisions, and especially policy decisions, we're careful to always put faith and family first. Nothing else matters if we don't have these in our individual lives and in our community. I reminded you that a few years ago, Family Circle magazine named Boulder City one of the top 10 places in the nation to raise a family. And that the number 1 reason that most of us moved to Boulder City or decided to stay here is because it's a wonderful place to raise a family. And of course, I definitely still believe that's true. We're very blessed to have so many great, caring families in Boulder City who continue to make a positive difference in each of our individual lives. However, there's an alarming trend happening right before our very eyes, and I don't think that many of us even realize it. Since the year 2000, the population of K through 12 age children in Boulder City has dropped by approximately 300, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, even though our overall population has increased by 4%. Furthermore, the school district informs me that enrollment in our public schools has dropped by 578 students over that same period, amounting to a 25% decline. And that doesn't even account for the fact that Boulder City is a net recipient of public school students, with more kids coming into our schools from other places than go out to attend elsewhere. The plain fact is that our population is aging, and I believe that it's doing so unintentionally. Our senior population is growing rapidly, we know that, but our junior population is declining even more rapidly, and that's what I think most of us don't fully grasp. Our kids grow up, go away to get an education, and ultimately create families of their own, and that's as it should be. But for the most part, they're not coming back to raise their families here in clean, green Boulder City. And we're not replacing them with other young families either. The reality is that we're not providing young families a realistic means to come back or to move here for the first time, even if they want to. On Zillow, Boulder City's average median listing price per square foot is now 18% higher than Henderson's, 23% higher than Mesquite's, and a whopping 35% higher than Clark County's as a whole. Young families simply cannot afford to pay 35% more, in many cases hundreds of thousands of dollars more for a starter home, especially when they can buy a comparable home over the hill that's 30 to 50 years newer for a lot less. Keeping property values high is nice, but not so high that we're unintentionally driving young families away. Our housing needs to be affordable for all age groups, not just established elites and retirees. If these trends continue, and unless we intentionally do something about them, there's every indication that they will, enrollment at our public schools will continue to drop by over 100 students every 3 years. That's 1,000 fewer every decade. I don't know if that's alarming to you, but it sure is to me. In the long run, it means reduced education funding, smaller school facilities, a smaller and less diverse group of peers to contribute to the education process, teacher and counselor layoffs, increasingly less competitive sports teams, and so on. Boulder City High School dropped below 600 students this year for the first time in forever, meaning since at least the 1970s when I first moved here, and risked losing one of its 2 counselors as a result. If Principal Amy Wagner hadn't fought hard to keep a second counselor after we inched back to 602 students on count day, then our high school students would be facing a 600 to 1 student to counselor ratio rather than the current more manageable 300 to 1 ratio. That's not fair to our kids or to our administrators. And especially when our kids, our children, continually outperform their counterparts in the rest of Nevada, by a long shot, by the way. We have great schools, and we need to keep them that way. But that's not going to happen by accident. If we leave things to chance, then these disconcerting trends will just continue until we've sealed our own fate and become something that we don't want to be. A town that unintentionally shrivels up and dies on the vine. We simply can't let that happen. We like to style ourselves as a family-friendly town and community, and in many, many ways we are, but not in these ways. So let's wake up, smell the coffee, and do something about it. In order to do that, though, we need to put our differences aside, stop trying to pretend that our city hasn't changed and never will, and face reality with open minds and a resolve to work it together for the greater good. I have the faith that we can, and I implore you to join me in my crusade. A crusade not to change who we are, but instead to intentionally return us closer to what we once were. A healthy, vibrant, family-friendly town that's constantly replenishing its younger generation. Our future depends upon it. Second on my mayor's vision list is be business friendly. Last year I challenged us to embrace a major paradigm shift at City Hall in the way we treat existing and prospective businesses. To treat them more like partners, teammates, friends, and fellow citizens, and less like outsiders and adversaries. I urge us to get rid of the us versus them mentality, to start giving businesses the benefit of every doubt, talking to them with respect, listening with empathy to their concerns, focusing on solutions rather than problems, and being more customer friendly. I asked us to eliminate the pervasive attitude that we're doing businesses, nonprofits, and our citizens a favor, to do everything in our power to avoid placing unwieldy conditions, legal roadblocks, and code provisions in their way, to replace the words no and can't with yes and can do as much as possible, and to resist the temptation to exact upfront every single dollar and every kind of off-site improvement all at once. Instead, finding ways for new businesses to participate financially with us in long-term, mutually beneficial, win-win ways. In short, to treat people like it's their government, not ours. I am pleased to report that this paradigm shift has begun to take hold in earnest on a citywide basis, and particularly in the community development department's building, planning, and code enforcement divisions, where many of the city's interactions with businesses and their contractors take place. City Administrative Officer Bryce Bolt and new building official Mark Palm have worked very hard to ensure that these internal cultural changes and ideals take root. We're certainly not perfect at it, but we're getting much better. And to help us continue to get better, Community Development implemented a customer service survey designed to solicit feedback and help us assess where further improvement is needed. It's also been very heartening for me to see business owners starting to come together as well, particularly with I-11 knocking on our front door. Businesses, I challenged you last year to stop being territorial. And I remind you once again that the only way we're going to prosper is together, not alone and apart. We'll either rise together or we'll fall together. It's our choice. We control our own destiny. Others don't have to fail for us to succeed. We not only need more public-private partnerships, but also more private-private partnerships among the businesses themselves. So let's continue finding common ground and banding together as a business community. It's essential to our collective survival. One specific way that the city is trying to be more business-friendly is the Boulder City Parkway Complete Street project, A few years ago, the city completed a beautification project along Nevada Way in our Old Town Historic District. However, nothing west of Buchanan was included. Consequently, in that stretch of our business district, they sometimes feel like Boulder City's neglected stepchild. In addition, businesses along that stretch of Nevada Highway's western entrance to town are subject to heavy truck traffic, higher speeds, and other circumstances that make foot and bicycle traffic unsafe and virtually non-existent. So in this past year, I asked the city and RTC to explore the feasibility of a Nevada Highway revitalization project. We worked together to expand that vision to include not just the portion of the highway from Railroad Pass to Buchanan, but also the lakeside portion of US 93 from Buchanan down to Pacifica Way. As many of you know, this entire stretch is going to be renamed Boulder City Parkway once I-11 opens. The result is what is now known as the Boulder City Parkway Complete Street Project. The Complete Streets concept envisions a balance of safety and mobility for everyone using the roadways, including not just motorists, but also pedestrians and cyclists. Complete streets generally include features like wider sidewalks, dedicated bicycle lanes, bus turnouts, intersection improvements, safer pedestrian and bike crossings, and median upgrades. If this works, I'd like to share a 2-minute video that RTC produced that talks a little bit about the Complete Streets concept.
Have you noticed the new streets? You know the ones I'm talking about. The ones with new bike lanes that benefit pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. In an effort to promote the use of our valley's great transportation options and make our community a great place to live, all of the jurisdictions, in partnership with the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada, are enhancing our roadways with Complete Streets as part of the Southern Nevada Strong Initiative. Complete Streets are roadways designed to include room for drivers, transit riders, pedestrians, and cyclists.
Like this area at First and Clark.
Or right here at Highview and Valley Verde.
Or this rapid flashing beacon right here on Alexander Road and Arcata Way.
Or right here at Georgia Avenue and Adams Boulevard.
Or right here at Pioneer Boulevard and Grapevine Road.
Or here at Fort Apache and Elkhorn.
Complete Streets are designed to be safe for all users, regardless of how you choose to travel. Do you want to see more Complete Streets in your neighborhood? If so, you can contribute $2 to the Complete Streets program when you renew your vehicle registration online at dmvnv.com or at any of the convenient DMV kiosks located around town. Just in the past year, the DMV collected $130,000 that will be used to install new bike lanes, school zone flashers, and pedestrian signals. This means a better roadway for cyclists and for children walking to school. This means a better road.
For you.
For you.
For you.
For you.
For you. For you.
For more information on Complete Streets, visit rtcsnv.com.
And thank you to RTC for putting that together. It's a great little piece. So hopefully that gives you a flavor of what we're trying to do in that area of town. To be clear, our Boulder City Parkway Complete Streets project is still in its relative infancy. To date, we've only obtained funding to design the reach from Gingerwood Street to Buchanan Boulevard. So additional funding to design the remaining portions, as well as funding to actually construct it, still needs to be secured. But with the passage of the FRI ballot question last November, I'm very optimistic and more optimistic than ever before. On a related note, in what I consider somewhat of a companion project, the state last year approved construction of a new Nevada State Railroad Museum Visitors Center at the northwest corner of Nevada Highway and Buchanan Boulevard. Only funding for the preliminary design work has been authorized so far, but we are happy that Craig Galati has been selected as the architect to do this work. Larry Bender, our economic vitality business retention consultant, has also been pushing hard for a linear park that would extend along the railroad tracks behind the Nevada Highway businesses. If designed properly, this would bring additional foot and bicycle traffic into the area, complement the Complete Streets project, and eventually help us to create greater connectivity between those businesses and our Bootleg Canyon and River Mountain Trail loop trails. I have to tell you that I'm possibly even more excited about that potential project, the Linear Park project, than I am about the Railroad Museum, although I think that each project would enhance the others and help us to create a nicely integrated mixed-use area there. Businesses, I hope you know that we at the city and the EVC all want you to succeed, and we're working hard to find ways to ensure that that happens. I'd like to thank City Manager Dave Frazier for being willing to make difficult decisions that have enabled us to begin making internal sea changes in the way we do business at the city. Also, again, Brock Armentrout for championing the paradigm shift, and Bryce Bolt and Mark Palm for their concerted effort to ensure implementation at home and out in the field. Next to Public Works Director Scott Hansen for working hard to make the Complete Streets project happen. The RTC and its representatives, Tina Quigley, Fred O'Heaney, and Mike Hand, have been instrumental in queuing up the Complete Streets project as well. And of course, all their staff members who assist so ably. Please stand and be recognized. And also our EVC representatives, Larry Bender, Mike Majewski, Jill Lagan, Brett Runyon, who did I forget? Kendra Wright. If you guys are here, please stand. Thanks for everything you do to make us more business friendly here in Boulder City. As most of you know, a critical component of my 2016 Mayor's Vision was crystal clear communication. And it probably won't surprise you that it still is. As I've repeatedly said over the last 5.5 years, communicating efficiently, effectively, and proactively is without question one of the most important and yet one of the most daunting challenges that any government faces. And it always will be. We'll never be perfect at it, but it's an absolute necessity that we make a continual and concerted effort to keep decision makers and citizens informed and engaged with clear and accurate information. We need to keep getting better and better at communicating and constantly find new and improved ways of doing it. Last January, I issued that challenge not only to the City Council and staff, but also to myself. As the mayor, I feel like it's my job to lead out by example. So let me begin by telling you what I've personally tried to do over the last 12 months to meet that self-imposed challenge. With the generous cooperation of the Boulder City Review, I immediately began writing a monthly Talk of the Town column beginning in February. In addition, I've continued Mayor Tobler's tradition of writing a monthly Mayor's Brief article in the Boulder City Magazine. Since May, I've also done a monthly live television interview on Channel 8's Monday Mornings with the Mayors. So I hope you can see that on any given week, there's a pretty good chance that you'll see me talking about city issues in one media format or another. I hope you found my articles and interviews to be relevant, engaging, and informative. If you missed any of them, they're all available online. In November, I committed to monthly cottage meetings as well, where I can have informal discussions with smaller groups of business owners and residents on topics that are important to you and your guests. Articles, interviews, and speaking engagements are helpful, but they aren't as effective as informal face-to-face discussions where you can ask questions, get direct and immediate feedback, and have dialogue with your elected city officials. So I'm really excited to kick off with my first cottage meeting 3 weeks from now. City staff has also worked very hard to embrace my crystal clear communication challenge by substantially improving the city's website and making it much more user-friendly. You can check out my March 2016 Talk of the Town article for more details. But if you haven't visited our website for a while, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. My crystal clear communication challenge last year also exhorted City Council and staff to proactively tell our own story rather than being reactionary, and to regularly inform our citizens of not only the challenges and setbacks we face, but also all the positive steps we're taking and the good things that we're doing every single day. Partially in response to this challenge, the city recently engaged 10E Media as our new public information officers. Since then, former news anchors Kendall Tenney and Sue Manteros have been working to help us polish our communication skills, more effectively brand our city, and keep our citizens better informed. I'm excited about this new engagement and very optimistic about the sizable role that I think Tenney can play to help us move in the right direction going forward. So Sue and Kendall, I believe you're both here tonight. Will you stand so that we can recognize you? Thank you. These guys are consummate professionals, and I know that they're going to help us in a lot of ways. We're also in the process of completely rebuilding our council chamber's audiovisual system, as well as the equipment used to send broadcasts to Cox Cable and to live stream them on our website. Much of the old equipment dated as far back as 1977. I think that's a cue for some more old jokes. Frequently resulting in a fuzzy picture, scratchy audio, and occasional malfunctions. As you might expect, our broadcasts were often the antithesis rather than the epitome of crystal clear communication. The new equipment will enable us to broadcast in high definition as soon as Cox is ready. Over the coming year, we also hope to develop additional programs on BCTV, including original programming in partnership with the high school. Our city's public education and outreach efforts have also substantially improved this year. One example was the Building a Sustainable Utility System open house. It was an opportunity for citizens to learn about the rate study, growing operation and maintenance cost, infrastructure needs, utility billing options and assistance, and conservation and rebate information. It also encouraged citizens to provide input on how the city can better serve them. Another example of effective outreach was the Four Corners Interchange Master Planning Workshop and related target stakeholder meetings conducted by our consultant, G.C. Garcia. There, citizens, business owners, nonprofits, and community leaders learned about the master planning process and provided input on the types of development they would like to see when the industrial park is constructed. Both of these outreach efforts were engaging and well attended, and both received rave reviews from those who participated. So a big thank you to George Garcia and his team, as well as to our city staff members who participated in and set up for these workshops and meetings. They involve lots and lots of hard work and preparation. Please don't get me wrong, our crystal clear communication task is by no means complete. As I've said many times, it never will be, but I believe we've made great strides. And so I'm merely reissuing that same challenge this year with added emphasis. Let's keep the positive momentum going in the coming year, making additional strides as well as lengthening the strides we've already made, especially in getting the positive word out to the public about the many positives happening at City Hall and throughout our community on a regular basis. Finally, before I move on to my next Mayor's Vision element, I just want to remind everyone that incivility and personal attacks don't have any place in the public arena. Even when you think you're hidden in relative anonymity on the internet, on the blogosphere, or social media. They're cowardly and very juvenile forms of communicating that only serve to polarize opinions, chill free speech, impede productive dialogue, and hide the truth. Let's debate the issues vigorously, but let's never allow ourselves to engage in counterproductive name-calling, put-downs, ad hominem attacks, innuendo, smear campaigns, pot shots, or disparagements of any kind. In short, let's act like grown-ups when we communicate, not like kindergartners. You know, unfortunately, I sometimes have trouble telling the difference these days. But I think you know who you are, and you know how to act your age. So please, let's all take it upon ourselves to elevate our dialogue to a higher level. And if you need extra reasons, then check out my E Pluribus Unum article in this month's Boulder City Magazine. Fourth, keeping our financial house in order. Last January, I praised the city for weathering the financial storm over the last 3/4 of a decade better than most Nevada municipalities. We had successfully followed our 2010 financial plan and its accelerated debt reduction goals, having recently paid off our $2 two multi-million-dollar Boulder Creek, that's this golf course, Boulder Creek Golf Course debts. However, I cautioned that we weren't out of the woods yet, with over $30 million in debt remaining and over $100 million in aging utility infrastructure and neglected city facility repair and replacement costs looming on the 5 to 10 year horizon. Our utility fund was also in serious jeopardy of folding because we had kept utility rates too low for too long. I didn't have all the answers, but I did state that careful planning, creative thinking, sacrifice, and probably even utility rate increases would be required. I'm happy to report that in 2016, we once again made significant progress toward our financial goals. In June, we paid the final $3.5 million balance of our third straw debt to the Southern Nevada Water Authority. Then in November, voters passed Boulder City Question Number 1, authorizing the city to use Capital Improvement Fund money as it becomes available to pay down our sole remaining debt, the $27+ million raw water line debt. Consequently, if sufficient money becomes available in that fund, we now have the power to follow our financial plan and its recommendations to increase annual debt payments beginning next fiscal year. If so, then we'll retire the raw water line debt at least 7 to 8 years early and save ourselves almost $3.5 million in interest, making Boulder City debt-free. That assumes, of course, that our citizens don't make a conscious decision to go out and incur additional debt. But I don't think I need to tell you that being debt-free is a really, really big deal. It isn't something that very many municipalities can say. In fact, I can't think of a single one that can say that. In any case, rather than depleting our utility fund to pay lenders, we'll instead be able to pay ourselves by using the millions in interest savings for other much-needed projects like replacing our aging electrical infrastructure. And we'll be giving ourselves more tools in our toolbox when faced with annual budgetary challenges. Debt is sometimes necessary, but it's a form of bondage with a taskmaster named interest who never sleeps. So paying it off early will increasingly free us from that oppressive slave driver, giving us more and more freedom to choose and more options to choose from as we continue to chart our course toward a healthy financial future. In addition to accelerating debt payments, we also took significant steps this past year toward ensuring the long-term viability of our utility fund. In February, we received consultant EES's water, wastewater, and electric rate study, then held several ensuing public workshops, and ultimately in May followed the study's rate increase recommendations effective as of October. So as additional utility revenues trickle in over time, our ability to catch up on long overdue utility repair and replacement projects should steadily increase, further helping us to keep our financial house in order and ensuring a healthy utility system and sustainable utility fund for the foreseeable future. Former Finance Director Shirley Hughes did a remarkable job shepherding us through the rate study process. Over her 5-year tenure, she also helped us establish prudent financial policies, always keeping us focused on our financial plan goals. However, last summer, Ms. Hughes accepted an offer to become Liberty, South Carolina's first city administrator, leaving our finance director position vacant. Nevertheless, in October, the city was fortunate to hire Hyun Kim as her replacement. Mr. Kim's communication skills distinguished him from other candidates, and now his drive, his initiative, and professionalism are earning him the respect of his colleagues. Under Mr. Kim's leadership, one of the aims of the Finance Department is much greater transparency, including new online tools to allow residents improved access to the city's financial information with clearer supporting narratives. In fact, a new online budget tool is already in the works, and our budgeting process is off to a welcome early start this year. Over time, Mr. Kim wants the budgetary process to better incorporate performance-based metrics that focus more on success than on the process itself, so that all of us can better gauge whether any given city program is truly bringing us value. Mr. Kim is also committed to increase financial controls over all monetary activities, including creation of internal audit functions to ensure proper financial policies are being followed and reported to the council and public. Mr. Kim, please stand so everyone can see who you are. It's back there. We appreciate the fact that you hit the ground running in your new position, and thank you for your service. All told, we're in a much better financial position this year than we were a year ago. And I'm still supremely confident that if we stay the course and follow sound financial principles, we're going to be just fine. As a reminder, those principles include continuing to live within our means, saving for a rainy day, fostering self-reliance, providing resources to our citizens, taking care of our own, especially the elderly and the needy, and giving back to the community in meaningful ways. Finally, there's one specific financial housekeeping request that I have for the city manager, and that's that the city hire or engage a qualified individual or company whose job description is focused primarily on finding and writing grants that can benefit the city. It seems to me that the number of untapped grants out there is plentiful, and my strong impression is that the city isn't taking full advantage of all the possibilities, not by a long shot. For instance, I'm constantly getting emails from the USDA about grant funds being made available for the benefit of rural communities, which I believe encompasses Boulder City. SNPLMA funds are another underutilized source as far as I can tell. I could be wrong, but I'm willing to be, I am willing to be persuaded otherwise, but I don't think I am. So, Mr. Frazier, I'm asking you to find a way to make this happen, whether by fully or partially repurposing an existing employee who is qualified, hiring a new one, or finding a qualified third party to help us better compete for grant dollars. There are hundreds of millions of grant dollars out there, and I want to make sure that Boulder City gets a healthy share. Last year, my fifth and final injunction was that we need to pick up the pace and get out in front of our many challenges, particularly those associated with I-11. I warned that potential revenue-generating opportunities would continue to come and go if we aren't ready for them. And so I tasked us with the challenge of expediting our internal processes. I also outlined a tried and true formula for making that happen. Number one, delegation. Number two, empowerment. And number three, accountability. At each level of our government, we need to let go a little bit more, delegate specific tasks and more responsibility to those under our stewardship, and trust that they'll get the job done well, even if sometimes it's not exactly the way that we would do it. Then empower them with the necessary tools and resources, and finally follow up to hold them accountable. None of us can do it alone, but collectively we can lengthen our stride and ramp up our speed. By pooling our resources and taking advantage of each other's strengths, we can work together to stay on top of the many challenges and opportunity that the future holds for us. I've been preaching the delegate, empower, hold accountable mantra to our city manager, Dave Frazier, ever since he arrived in Boulder City 4 years ago. I've also done my level best to implement it directly with him in my role on the city council, particularly since I became mayor. In a public forum, and given the fact that no individual council member can act unilaterally, that's not always easy or comfortable for him or for me. And I know my fellow council members share the same reservations about the process. But despite the difficulties and occasional differences of opinion, I can honestly say that Mr. Frazier has responded exceptionally well to my incessant prodding. And I believe that he's increasingly become more comfortable letting go and trusting others, particularly in the past year. Creation of the new city administrator position, new hires Yoon Kim and Mark Palm, and outsourcing major projects to consultants like GC Garcia are all evidence of that. Speaking of the GC Garcia Group, the city engaged their services last year to assist in our efforts to master plan the lands around the new interchange being developed at I-11 and US 95. That's one of the major projects on which I've been urging Mr. Fraser and Mr. Arbentrout to pick up the pace for some time now. Often, I'm sure, to both of their and to GC Garcia's chagrin. Nevertheless, they've all recently stepped up to expedite the process. The Garcia Group has been meeting with our business community, Chamber of Commerce, Economic Vitality Commission, various city leaders, nonprofits, and other stakeholders. And as previously mentioned, they held a public workshop at the Boulder City Library to solicit community input as well. Many of our residents attended and offered great ideas and suggested priorities. If I'm not mistaken, we should have at least the initial, if not the final report back from Garcia within the next few weeks. So many thanks to all of you for picking up the pace on this important city project. Also, what started in 2010 with a voter-approved ballot question and was subsequently followed in 2014 by another approved ballot question is finally coming to fruition. At long last, the real estate market is slowly coming back, and we have accordingly released a request for proposals to sell approximately 40 acres around the Boulder Creek Golf Course, together with another 30 acres at the southeast corner of Adams and Bristlecone for development of single-family homes. The proceeds from these land sales will help fund utility infrastructure replacement projects and capital purchases for our public safety departments. If all goes well with the bidding process, we anticipate the sales to be completed this spring. Again, thank you for picking up the pace on these much anticipated projects. So finally, in conclusion, I know it's been a long night, and there's a lot of great things to talk about in Boulder City, and I appreciate your patience as we've gone through that process and really highlighted. I started out with about 50 pages and whittled it down to about 20. But there are great things going on in Boulder City, and there are many challenges in Boulder City. And, I appreciate the fact that we're trying to work through these issues together. It's not always easy. We have to be open to public dialogue. We can't be afraid to talk about issues, because if you hide from those issues, if you sweep them under the rug, if you think that things are just going to go in the right direction because you ignore them, it doesn't happen. You have to really figure out what you want to be when you grow up, and you have to then set a plan and find a way to get there. And so it's because of good folks like you that we're able to do that. I want you to know that it's hard sometimes being a public official, as many of the public officials here tonight will attest. But and sometimes it feels like it's not worth it, or like you're spinning your wheels and you're not doing what you need to be doing. But the support, the inspiration, the hard work that you do on a daily basis, it really makes a difference for us. And when you let us know that, or when you come out and participate, even if you disagree with us, it lets us know that these things are all worth it. So thank you again for coming tonight. God bless America, God bless Boulder City, and good night.